Hello, friends. Welcome back to Owning Authenticity. My name is Carly, and this video series, I am debuting the Owning Authenticity model. How do you live life as your true self? That is the question that this entire channel is dedicated to, and this model came to me as a rush of a download of it's like this and this and this and this, and you see the arrows and the deepening directionality of it, and that sweeping arrow that goes back to the top where, again, it's a continuous process. There is no end to our ability to live life as our truest self, and I personally believe that every time we deepen even more into who we truly are, our capacity for being fulfilled by this life, by this heaven on earth paradise that we live in, it expands right along with our own authenticity. So if you are into that, you are totally in the right place. Go ahead and leave a like on the video if you're enjoying this series. I put the playlist in the description box if this is the first video of the series that you're finding and you want to go back and explore the groundwork that we've already laid to get to this point, by all means. But even this video on its own is going to add value to your process of living as your truest self. And we started by revealing the first box in the model, which was self-awareness, which is basically to say paying attention and knowing who you are. Okay, and the thing about that is, and this takes us directly into the second box of deconditioning, when you very first start paying attention to who you are, the first thing you're gonna see is your conditioned self. Another way to say that, and this is from Human Design, not important if you don't know what that is, but another way to say your conditioned self is your not self. Okay, and what is conditioning? What does that even mean? Your conditioned self. That means who you were taught to be. Who you were taught is the right version of you. Okay, when we are children, when we are first arriving onto this planet, some studies say as early as the second trimester of your gestation, before you're ever even born, it's second or third trimester, you start to become aware. Your unconscious mind is soaking up data from your environment. Any stimuli that's happening to you, you're making a record of it in your unconscious mind. And we do not begin forming a conscious mind until we are 8 years old. So from third trimester in your mother's womb all the way up through 8 years old, you are like a video camera turned on, absorbing, with no conscious ability to discern what is you and what is not you. You become the amalgamation of everything that happens to you in early life. So if you really, here's an example from my own personal history. If you really love to sing, and let's say you're singing really joyfully in the company of your grandmother, and unbeknownst to you, grandma's not having such a great day. Okay, it's probably the reason for what happens. But what happens is she says, Carly, that doesn't sound nice. You learn, you internalize, you are conditioned, you are taught your singing voice doesn't sound nice, right? And because you're only 4 or 5 years old, you believe her. You have no reason to doubt the truth of the authority of this person, right? Doubt and discernment and contradicting the opinions of other people, that is something that requires an identity. And an identity is part of our conscious mind. Who we know ourselves to be, that is part of our conscious mind. That starts to form in late childhood. Okay, so in those early years, we are the video camera turned on, absorbing. We are a sponge. Another way I've heard it said is children are like wet cement. Anything that falls on wet cement is going to leave a mark, as opposed to that same cement 2 years later totally cured. You drop something on it, maybe even the thing you dropped on it is going to shatter because the cement is so hard at that point. But if it's wet cement, it's going to like sink right into it and leave an indentation. And that's what social conditioning is, that indentation, the shape of who you were taught to become. And how were you taught that? It's sometimes about what people said to you, like in my example with my grandma telling me my singing voice does not sound nice. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That's not what we're here to debate. Sometimes it's about what's said to you. Sometimes, and probably even more often, it's about the nervous system set point of the people close up to you. Okay, it's not what's taught, it's what's caught. So if you have adults in your immediate vicinity as a child who are really stressed out, who are not calm, who are constantly going and moving and hustling back and forth, that becomes your nervous system set point. That becomes part of your identity, that you must be on the go, that the value that you bring to the table is how much you can produce on a daily basis. And that's not necessarily something that anybody has to say to you. It's the behavior that's modeled in front of you in those years of wet cement. And so all of this looping back together with this owning authenticity model and starting with self-awareness, when you start paying attention to yourself, you're going to see the motivations that you caught from your parents. You're going to see the approaches and the tactics and the priorities that you caught from your parents. And parents can be loosely interchanged with like whoever was the adult figure in your early life, doesn't necessarily have to be traditional mom and dad. So deconditioning is the process of beginning to feel dissonance with your programmed self and your authentic self. Okay, because just like conditioning, those years of wet cement, it's so easy for children they're impressionable. Okay, it's so easy to leave an impression on a child. And we are constantly being conditioned. Okay, and this is a really exciting concept. And I go here because there are a lot of people that can rag on like how susceptible humans are to conditioning. And I'm here to tell you, like, fuck it, make it work for you. Okay, so like understand that like your brain has this amazing magical thing called neuroplasticity, and it is changing and learning and setting up new neural pathways every single day. And you will be conditioned by everything you are exposed to. Everything that comes into your field of awareness, everything you hear, everything you see, everything you smell, everything you taste, every nervous system response that you have, every emotion that runs through your system is conditioning you. So again, if even as an adult, if you're spending a lot of time around people who have a really negative worldview, or they constantly complain without taking action, or they feel really stressed out, or they are constantly numbing their emotions instead of like internally looking at them and validating them and working through the messages that they're trying to give, like the people you spend time around, whether physically or online, or you're watching their videos or whatever it is, you are being conditioned still. So make it work for you. Make sure that the things you're paying attention to, you want to be more like that, because that's what's happening. Whether you want to be more like that, or you're paying attention because you hate watching something, or you're paying attention because I must be informed, I have to know what's going on in the world. Like, you're becoming more like everything you expose yourself to. And so again, make it work for you. That's the bottom line of conditioning and deconditioning, is that unbecoming is part of this journey. Okay, so like that dissonance between your programmed self and your authentic self, feeling kind of like what I was describing in the self-awareness video, of like feeling like this just isn't me. I can't do this. I don't like this. This is out of integrity. It makes my stomach hurt. It makes me sweat. I dread it. I dread the thought of having to do this. That's a great sign that you're making yourself do something that you were conditioned you're supposed to do. but that is out of alignment with your authentic self. So like there's lots of different signs, and as you pay attention to yourself, your authentic self loves what it loves. Okay? And your conditioned self is doing a lot of things that like are making life harder than it needs to be, are making you sick in some cases. So paying attention to why are you doing what you're doing, right? Like, how does it feel when you do that thing? And I want, like, as far as leaving you with a tangible exercise, like, what was the last thing you did that you absolutely dreaded having to do? Okay. And like, think about that. Does something pop in your mind? Probably. And on the flip side, what was the last thing you did that you looked forward to? That as you were doing it, you absolutely loved it, you lost track of time. This is the beginning of finding your authentic self and seeing your conditioned self. Your conditioned self is going through the motions. Your conditioned self is jumping through hoops that it gives no shits about. Your authentic self is losing itself in the bliss of getting to do what it's doing. Okay, so that's last time you dreaded something, last time you really looked forward to something, and to just even, like we talked about before too, of like, we get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, deconditioning takes years. All right, we didn't become conditioned overnight. We're not going to become unconditioned overnight. So, or deconditioned overnight. So give yourself some grace in that process and have it be like a game of like, oh, here I am, like pushing myself to do something that I really don't want to do. I wonder why I'm doing that. And collect the data. What would I rather be doing? What would I rather say? Like, in a world where I can have anything that I want, what would I design this situation to be? And start to pull apart those conditioned responses, and even to become aware of what you would rather have is one step closer to owning your authenticity out loud. In the next video, we're going to get even deeper into this model where it's not just about being aware of it on the inside, but actually having to like take action and put it on the outside. So that's where it really like the rubber meets the road, and it does get a little bit more gritty as far as living this and owning your authenticity in your life on a daily basis. But that's the beauty of this model, right? It's one step at a time, and we make it a little bit more safe, and we make it a little bit more safe. And the first step for it to be safe for us to be authentic in our life is for us to be safe being authentic within ourselves. And recognizing our conditioning when it pops its head up is a huge, huge piece of that. So that takes us to the end of this video. We do have a free live event coming up in July of 2024. So if you're not already, go ahead and hop on the mailing list so you don't miss your invite to that. And even if it's past that date, go ahead and hop on the mailing list anyway. There's lots of free goodies that come through there, and stories, and the next free event, okay? Like, there's always going to be another one. So other than that, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, something that you've noticed from your own conditioning, something that, you know, a lot of people around this channel are well underway in their deconditioning journey. And I would love it if you would even take a second and leave a piece of advice for anybody who might be just starting out on their deconditioning journey. What would you want them to know? What would you go back and tell yourself at the beginning of your own journey? One of mine is like, every little step counts. Okay, every little bit of becoming more aware of who you really are is huge. I know it feels small, and I know it feels like it takes forever sometimes, but it adds up so much faster than you think. Until next time, take such good care of your beautiful self, and so will I.